Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari. Jaya Girivaradhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraj Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraj Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraj Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasa Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Vallabh, Shri Radhe. Jai Jagannatha, Jai Jagannatha, Jai Baladeva, जय सुभद्रा जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल जनिताय गौर प्रेमानंदी So, today we are reading from Canto 8, Chapter 12, which is titled Mohini Murti Bewilders Lord Shiva. So, text number 6. Tavaiva charanambhojam Shreyaskama nirashishaha Tvaveva charanambhojam Shreyaskama nirashishaha Visrijyo bhayatah sangam Visrijyo bhayatah sangam Muniyah samupasate Muniyah samupasate Tvaveva charanambhojam Tvaveva charanambhojam Shreyaskama nirashishaha Shreyaskama nirashishaha Visrijyo bhayatah sangam Visrijyo bhayatah sangam Muniyah samupasate Muniyah samupasate Shreyaskama nirashishaha Visrijyo bhayatah sangam Munaya samupasate. Ladies, Tavaiva charanambhojam Shreyaskama nirashishaha Charanambhojam Shreyaskama nirashishaha Visrijyo bhayatah sangam Munaya sampasate. Please repeat word for word. Tava, your, eva, indeed, charanam bhojam, lotus feet, shreyah kamaha, persons desiring the ultimate auspiciousness, the ultimate goal of life, nirashishaha, without material desire, visrijya, giving up, ubhyataha, in this life and the next, sangam, attachment, muniyaha, great sages, samupasate, worship. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Pure devotees or great saintly persons who desire to achieve the highest goal in life and who are completely free from all material desires for sense gratification engage constantly in the transcendental service of your lotus feet. Purport. One is in the material world when he thinks, I am this body and everything with reference to my body is mine. Ato graha kshetra sutapta vittair janasya mohoyam aham mameti. This is the symptom of material life. In the materialistic conception of life, one thinks, this is my house, this is my land, this is my family, and this is my state, and so on. But those who are muniyaha, saintly persons, follow in the footsteps of Narad Muni, simply engage in following in the footsteps of Narad Muni, simply engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without any personal desire for sense gratification. Anya bhilashita shunyam jnana karma adyanavritam. Either in this life or in the next, the only concern of such saintly devotee is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus they are also absolute because they have no other desires. Being freed from the dualities of material desire, they are called Shreyas Kamaha. In other words, they are not concerned with dharma, religiosity, artha, economic development, or kama, sense gratification. The only concern of such devotees is moksha, liberation. This moksha does not refer to becoming one with the Supreme, like the Mayavadi philosophers. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that real moksha means taking shelter of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead. The Lord clearly explained this fact while instructing Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wanted to correct the word Mukti Pade in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed him that there is no need to correct any word in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. He explained that Mukti Pade refers to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who offers mukti and is therefore called Mukunda. A pure devotee is not concerned with material things. He is not concerned with religiosity, economic development, or sense gratification. He is interested only in serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Mukkam Karoti Vachalam Panghum Langhaite Girim Yat Kripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurundina Tarinam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this is the glorification of the Supreme Lord and His devotees. And in this specific verse, Srila Prabhupada talks about the bodily concept of life, and he quotes this verse Ato graha kshetra sutapta vittair janasya mohoham aham mameti. So, in this verse, it is mentioned that that material concept of life starts with attraction between male and female. So, and then as soon as that starts, then the circle of material entanglement starts. And then, as he says, that we all think that this body is mine and everything that is associated with this body is mine. Our home, family, positions, wealth, opulence, everything we consider as ours. And if there is any deviation or distraction or disturbance in our plans of our attachments, then it is very disturbing. So now, what we need to understand is that there is nothing wrong in providing for the maintenance of our body, and that is the minimum that is required. However, there is no need to go beyond it. For example, if you take the example of a cow which is tethered to a tree, when a cow is tied to a tree with a rope, then she tries to graze all around it. Up to what the length of the rope allows, she will stretch herself, she'll stretch her neck, and she'll try to graze the grass all around that. And then you see a circumference around where there is actually no grass left because she's been grazing that. And then once she's finished grazing that, then she tries to go beyond, right? She tries to stretch her neck more, she tries to see if she can go further and graze more. So this is an example to understand that within our limits, if we stay within our limits and we are providing for the basic necessities of life, there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, it is a duty to maintain our body and soul together, and also to maintain those who are our responsibility. However, to go beyond is like getting into entanglement of materialistic way of life. And this is condemned in the very first canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. It is mentioned, Kamasya na endriya priti labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa nartho yasceha karmabhihi. Life's desires should not be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since the human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's life. So there Srila Prabhupada explains that we must endeavor just enough to keep the body and soul together. So simple living and high thinking. Simple living helps us in higher thinking and in higher inquiry. So live simply, provide for the basics, and then move on. And then Srila Prabhupada also mentions that Atma Tattva Vid. He says a person who is Atma Tattva Vid will never find any interest or will find the material sense gratification tasteless, without any interest. But when there is a person who is not Atma Tattvavit, who is not inclined towards the benefit of the soul, then such a person will engage in sense gratification activities. Now this verse uses the word Srila Prabhupada uses this term muneyaha, and in this verse also it is mentioned, and Srila Prabhupada mentions it in many places, the word muneyaha, which is muniyoh, which is plural of muni, is being used at many times in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And muni in general means someone who renounces the materialistic way of life. So they at least understand, the munis understand that there is no happiness in this material world, and they retract their senses from sense gratification. They do not engage in the activities of sense gratification. And they try to fix their mind on the spiritual pursuits. So in the definition of muni, Srila Prabhupada mentions that usually in general the muni term that is used in the Vedic context is that a muni is supposed to have his unique philosophy. Every muni should have his unique philosophy. He should have something original, right? That he should have come up with something original. So in this way, they should be very learned in their field, but it is not necessary that all munis are spiritually inclined. There is an example of Charvak Muni in the scriptures. And Charvak Muni was actually an atheist. He propounded speculation. He was a mental speculator, and he propounded material sense gratification. And he did not believe in life after death. He did not believe in rebirth. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives 6 meanings of the word Muni. Muni shabde manana shila ara kahe muni, tapasvi vrati yati ara rishi muni. The word Muni refers to one who is thoughtful, one who is grave or silent, one who keeps great vows, one in the renounced order, and a saint. These are the different meanings of the word Muni. So, Mananashila, the word Manan, we know it means to be contemplative, to be reflective, someone who is thoughtful. And thoughtful doesn't mean at a mundane level. You know, some people these days, they do so much overthinking that they actually become mentally disturbed. We are not talking about those kind of overthinking. They're meditating on the everyday issues in life, or someone said this, or someone said that, I should do this, confused about what to do. That is not Mananashila. That is just too much, you're living in your own mind, and then it disturbs the mind. Mananashila means someone who thinks deeply about deeper issues of life, about deeper concepts of life and afterlife, about spirituality. That is Mananashila. And then Mauni. Mahaprabhu says he's a Mauni. Mauni means one who is silent or grave, which means a person who speaks few words, a man of few words, but whatever comes out of their mouth is very relevant and useful. They do not engage in mundane talk. They do not waste times and hours of conversations on material mundane things. Then he says a Muni is a Tapasvi. Tapasvi means someone who is an ascetic, who performs penances and austerities. He says he's a Vrati. Vrati means someone who takes vratas, drida vows, dridavatas, and he also is able to complete them successfully. So that is another meaning of Muni that Mahaprabhu gives. Then he says Yati. Yati means in the renounced order of life. So someone who's a Muni would be someone who has detached himself from family, society, community, but he's engaged in penances and austerities. And then he's a Rishi, or a saintly person, or a sage. Right? Devoid of any saintly person, we would generally see someone who is devoid of any malice in his heart towards any other living entity, and mostly thinking good, well-wisher of others. Now, if we see that way, we also hear of many other names that come up in our mind are like, for example, there were Munis like Durvasa Muni, and we have Munis like Saubhari Muni, and we have Vishwamitra Muni. Now, strictly speaking, they were not devotees, but yes, they did follow one or the other of the 6 meanings that are given in by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the Munis, about how they practice and how they live. But we see that these Munis, at some place, they did falter. Like Durvasa Muni, he had an issue with anger. He would get angry, and then he would get in trouble. So Durvasa Muni also offended, we know, Ambarish Maharaj, and then he had to beg forgiveness. So in this way, that was his issue. And then Vishwamitra Muni, now we know Vishwamitra Muni is a Muni who, a king turned into a rishi, a sage, when he saw that Vashishta Muni had more Brahma Tejas, and his Tejas was much, much more powerful than Vishwamitra's kingly power, because earlier he was a king, and as a king he had visited Vashishta Muni's ashram with his entire army. And Vashishta Muni had this Kamadhenu cow, Nandini cow, and she was able to produce a grand feast for those thousands of soldiers who had accompanied Vishwamitra Muni, at that time the king, and then he was able to feed them. And the king that time, he was very astonished. He was surprised. How is this sage living in the forest and living in a hut, is completely renounced? How is he able to feed us so opulently? Where does it all come from? So he inquired from Vashishta Muni, and Vashishta Muni said that I have this mother Nandini, my cow. She is there, and she provides all the paraphernalia that I need for yagyas and for my austerities and for doing all the paraphernalia that he needs to perform the yagyas with. So, and then the king desired to have that cow, and he wanted to take it away from Vashishta Muni. And Vashishta Muni said, I need this cow for the purpose of my yagyas. She provides all the paraphernalia that I need, like ghee, milk, honey, and all those paraphernalia come from her. So I need it for my purposes of my penances. But the king was so determined to take it from Vashishta Muni that he attacked him and he wanted to forcefully take the cow away. But then thousands and thousands of soldiers came out of Mother Nandini's body to protect Vashishta Muni and to protect herself. So in this way, the king that time, Vashishta Muni, felt very defeated, and that was a turning point in his life. So that time he decided to go and do tapasya, to become a sage bigger than and greater than Vashishta Muni. That was his vow. So he goes to the forest and he performs tapasya for many, many years. But as we know, whenever some sage performs great tapasya, then Lord Indra in the heavenly planets, he becomes insecure about his position as the king of the heavens. So he sends a heavenly damsel, Menaka, to disturb him, to distract him. And she succeeds. You see, now we should understand that Vishwamitra Muni was a yogi. So when he hears just by hearing the tinkling of the ankle bells of Menaka, the form of a woman appears in his mind, and he becomes distracted. And later on he goes to live with her, and they have a very divine daughter called Shakuntala. But then he realizes how he has disrupted his goal, how he became distracted, and he lost his tejas by again living with a woman. And then both of them leave. Menaka leaves the daughter saying, I live in the heavens, I was only here on a mission, I need to go back. So she goes back to the heavenly planets. And Vishwamitra Muni says, I'm a sage, you distracted me, I need to go back to my tapasya, I need to go back, perform austerities. So both of them leave the daughter there. Anyway, she grows up in the ashram of another sage. And but then Vishwamitra Muni was frustrated because he became distracted. So that was the first time he became distracted. And then he again engages in performing his austerities. Then then Lord Indra sends another heavenly damsel. Her name is Rambha. So he sends her, and then, but this time Vishwamitra Muni has already learned his lesson. So he gets angry at her, and by getting angry, he actually curses her to become a stone for 1,000 years. So he turns her into a stone. However, because he got angry, he again lost his Brahma Tejas. So he again goes back to perform austerities. And the third time, what happens is, there is this, we know in the scriptures, there is the mention of Maharaj Trishanku. He wanted to go to the heavenly planets in his self-same body, in this material body. He approaches Vashishta Muni, and Vashishta Muni clearly tells him that this is not the way to go to heavenly planets. You need to perform a lot of austerities. You need to perform a lot of yagyas and accumulate enough punya to become eligible to go to the heavenly planets. But Trishanku Maharaj was not convinced. He was very determined to go. So he then approaches Vishwamitra Muni, and he explains to him that it's his desire to go to the heavenly planets in the self-same body. And he also mentions that Vishwamitra Muni, Vashishta Muni couldn't do it for me. So because Vashishta Muni's arrival of Vishwamitra Muni, the desire came to him that let me try, I will do it for you. So he again utilizes all his Brahma Tejas, his powers, to send him up to the heavenly planets. But obviously King Indra, he knows, he says this is not the rule. The rule is you attain enough punya to come to the heavenly planets. So he pushes him down, and Maharaj Trishanku is in the middle of nowhere, because neither can he reach the heavenly planets, nor is he here on the earth. That is because Vishwamitra Muni kept trying to send him up to the heavenly planets in that body. But anyway, so what happened was, in that pursuit, Vishwamitra Muni again lost his Brahma Tejas. So this is how 3 times he failed because he became distracted, either because of his false ego, his competing spirit with the Vasishtha Muni, or because he became distracted because of lust, or he became angry. So how these vices played up, and he lost his, he became distracted from his goal. So Munis, coming to Munis, how the Munis can be sometimes distracted. And then we know the Leela of Saubhari Muni. Saubhari Muni was a great yogi, so great that he could actually meditate and breathe underwater. So he was meditating under the Yamuna river, and his only let's say, neighbors were the fishes that were swimming around in the river. So no distraction, no sound, no noise, nothing that he could hear. He was meditating. But just when he saw 2 fish copulating, that desire to unite with a woman, it came into his heart. You see, not even human beings, but just by looking at the fish, he became distracted. So then he comes out of the water, and he comes to King Mandhata, and he requests that he wants to marry his daughters. And then he because he's a yogi, he has Ashtasiddhis, so he transformed himself into a very youthful, handsome man, said so attractive that the daughters of King Mandhata, they were actually quarreling with each other to have him as a husband. So he marries all the 50 daughters of King Mandhata, and he enjoys for a long time. Because he was a great yogi, he produced an opulent house, opulent mansions with beautiful gardens and lakes. So all the places of enjoyment, whatever was possible, he created all those opulences to be able to enjoy with his wives. But after some time, he became frustrated, and he realized how he was actually a yogi and he was meditating. And he became distracted because of this desire in him. And then Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that someone who is Atma Tattvavit, who is pursuing in the interests of the soul, not in the body, he cannot enjoy. He will develop a distaste for this kind of material sense gratification. So in that way, then he realizes he needs to leave. So he takes Vanaprastha, he leaves, and he again goes to the forest to engage in austerities and penances, live the life of a sage. He becomes a renunciate. And his wives also, because they were so attached to him, they follow him. And then they also leave the life of sense gratification. So this is how we have the examples of some munis who are general munis. But is Srila Prabhupada talking about such munis here in this purport? So here, see how he clearly explains that those who are muniyaha, saintly persons following in the footsteps of Narad Muni, simply engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord without any personal desire for sense gratification. So you see, this is where there is a difference between the munis that we just discussed, or a general definition of a muni, and the one that is mentioned in this verse are those munis who follow in the footsteps of Narad Muni. Mahajano yena gatha supantha. So, following in the footsteps of great sages and of Narad Muni and other devotees is what are the muniyaha. The munis, or the real sages, are who actually, what they mean are advanced devotees of the Lord. And then he also mentions, Prabhupada mentions the verse Anya abhilachita shunyam jnana karmadi anavratam. So like these munis, some of them were after jnana, they were after karma, they were after, like, the desire of Vishwamitra Muni was to become better than Vasishtha Muni. So there was some material desire in his heart, isn't it? And then the yogis who go meditate in the underwater or in other secluded places, their desire is to attain Ashtasiddhis. So there is still some material desire. Or there are some who want to attain moksha, they want to merge into Brahman. That is again material desire. So as long as we have any of these material desires, then we do not come in the category of those munis or the devotees who actually have no other desire except to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. And then there is a famous verse how even those who are engaged in, those who are liberated, the liberated souls, how they also become attracted to the Supreme Lord. Atmaramas chamanyo nirgranthi apyurukrame kurvanti ahitukim bhaktim ittam bhuta guno hari. This is mentioned in Canto 1, chapter 7, verse 10, where it says all different varieties of Atmaramas, or those who take pleasure in the self or spirit self, especially those established on the path of self-realization. So we see that these munis are actually established on the path of self-realization. They have renounced the sense gratification, be it Durvasa Muni or Vishwamitra Muni or Swabhari Muni. But then, what else is missing? Then it says, freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This is what was missing in these munis. They were not engaged on devotional service to the Lord as a single pointed focus of their life. So this means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. And it is mentioned that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this Atmarama shloka very vividly to Srila Sanatana Goswami, and he also speaks this shloka to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So Mahaprabhu mentions this shloka. And we see in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam there is the example of Sukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva. And he remained in his mother's womb for 12 years. 12 years he remained in his mother's womb because he feared that if he came out of his mother's womb, he'll be captured by the material energy, by the illusory energy of the Lord. So then Srila Vyasadeva had to actually go and request Lord Sri Krishna to come and assure him that you will not become influenced by the illusory energy. So then when he gets this assurance, then Sukadeva Goswami, he comes out of his mother's womb. But as soon as he comes out, he starts walking towards the forest. He had no desire to live with his parents. He was a liberated soul. He knew there was no happiness in family life or in... but then Vyasadeva follows him. Vyasadeva follows him and he narrates a verse from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And when he hears that verse, Aho Bakiyam Stanakalakutam, oh how great is our Lord, who even gives the position of a dhatri or a nurse to Putana, who came to actually poison him and kill him. How great is that Lord? So when he hears that, he becomes so attractive that he comes back and then he listens to the entire Śrīmad Bhāgavatam from his father Vyasadeva. So this is how we understand that this verse says that even those who are liberated souls, they become attracted to Śrīmad Bhāgavatam and to the pastimes and glories of Lord Sri Krishna. And Sutta Goswami also calls the sages of Naimisharanya as Muni. Munaya sadhu prishtoham bhavadbhir lokamangalam yadkrita Krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati. He says, O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Sri Krishna. So, Munaya means someone who is actually inquiring about the Lord, about Lord Sri Krishna, about his appearance, about his pastimes. So in this way, Sutta Goswami also calls the sages of Naimisharanya as Munis because they are curious to hear about the pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada also mentions how a devotee of the Lord or one who is following in the footsteps of Narada Muni is not engaged in any of the four goals of life. What are the four goals of life as per the Vedas? Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. So we engage in dharmic activities, following the scriptures to do yagyas or other worshipping ceremonies to get Artha, to get money. Right? So this is the traditional way of thinking. So you do dharma to get artha, and then with the artha or the opulence of money, you fulfill kama, your material desires. And in the end, you renounce everything, you take vanprastha, you you want to work towards the ultimate goal of life, which is moksha or liberation. However, Srila Prabhupada says that a devotee does not take much interest in these. Even while he's in his family life, he is only focusing mainly on devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So, Pancham Purushartha, the fifth goal of the human form of life, the topmost goal of the human form of life, which is engaging in devotional service to Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is also clearly spelled out. What is the dharma, supreme dharma? Save pumsam paro dharmo yator bhakti yadhokshaje ahitukiya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. So, ahituki apratihata, unmotivated and uninterrupted devotional service to the Supreme Lord alone can give us yayatma suprasidati, can give us deep satisfaction at the level of the heart. So, it is clearly mentioned what is our dharma. Thank you. Thus, they are also absolute because they have no other desires. Being freed from the dualities of material desires, they are called Shreyas Kamaha. In other words, so Shreyas Kama, Srila Prabhupada uses this term and he explains and says that, so there is a term Preyas and there is a word Shreyas. Preyas means you are engaged in your everyday duties, you're engaged in endeavoring for your everyday duties of life. But Shreyas means you do not lose sight of the bigger picture. You do not lose sight of the ultimate goal of life. Yes, you have these engagements and you have to do your duties, but it is like living in the water and not getting wet. You live a life of attachments, but with detachment. In fact, it is said that when we are detached, then we do our duties towards our family, towards others, even with more responsibly. Because we do not have expectations. Detachment means we do not have expectations from our husband, from our children, from our parents, from our friends, from others we deal with. Without having expectations in return, we are doing our duties towards them. And then in that way, we actually perform our duties even in a better way. And there is a beautiful verse that Bilwal Mango Thakur has written. And he says that one who performs a person, Pancham Purushartha, he says, who engages in devotional service to the Lord, for such a person, Mukti, personified, the Devi of Mukti, and all the opulences are beggars at his doorstep. They are saying, they are offering whatever we have, you can have it. But Prabhupada mentions that a devotee of a Lord is not interested in any of the opulences, even though they may be very easily available to them. And then Srila Prabhupada in the purport mentions about Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and how he tries to correct a word in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was living in Jagannath Puri at the time when Mahaprabhu arrived there. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was an extremely intelligent and clever man. He was a very spiritual inclined person. So he had learned the Nyaya Shastra, and at his time he was an expert in Nyaya Shastra and Vedanta Shastra. And he had opened his own school of logic in his city of learning, where he was living. So and then he came to Jagannath Puri, and there when he actually had taken Kshetra Sannyas, he never set foot out of Jagannath Puri, and he had great number of followers. It is said he was so learned that even the Mayavad sannyasis would come to learn from him. And then one time when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he had taken sannyas in Katwa, after that he went to Shantipur and then he went to Jagannath Puri on the request of his mother that, he should live in Puri so she can get his news. He went to Jagannath Puri, and there when he went, he saw the Lord Jagannath. He was full of ecstasy, and then he actually fainted in the temple. So the guards of the temple thought that he was a vagrant or a beggar who had just approached. So they wanted to just beat him up and just throw him out of the temple. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, at that time his name was Vasudeva, he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he felt that he looked effulgent. He was attracted to the personality of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he stopped those guards, and with this help, he took this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his house. He takes Mahaprabhu to home. And then when he takes him home, he actually even puts like a little bit of cotton on under his nose to see that he's breathing, he's alive, because he was unconscious for a long time. So then when he takes him home, then in the meantime, Lord Nityananda and Jagannananda Pandit also arrive there inquiring about where Mahaprabhu is. So then they are told that he has been taken to the house of Vasudev Sarvabhauma. So they also arrive there, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya actually is he had a fatherly affection towards Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was concerned about Mahaprabhu. So when Lord Nityananda and Jagannananda Pandit and other devotees come to his house looking for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he welcomes them nicely. He was quite respectful, and he even sends his son to go to the temple of Lord Jagannath and facilitate that they take darshan of the lordships. And then Mahaprabhu also insists to go, but he says, you please wait, just first have prasadam and then you can go. So in this way, there is some affection he develops for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also being, he was with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was elderly. He did not go against his advice, so he also stayed back. And then they had prasadam, he fed them sumptuously. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya advises Mahaprabhu that you are such an intelligent personality, you are so learned, why don't you read Vedanta if you want to become a good sannyasi? To become an effective sannyasi, you must read Vedantas. So for 7, and Mahaprabhu agrees, although Lord Nityananda and Jagannananda Pandit and other object to it. They say he is a supreme personality of Godhead and you are trying to preach to him. But Mahaprabhu stops them, and he agrees to learn from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So for 7 days, Mahaprabhu listens from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. But he doesn't ask any questions. So then Mahaprabhu, then he says to Mahaprabhu, he says, well, a person who's inquisitive about the Vedanta, he should be asking questions. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I'm not asking questions because you asked me to listen. And whatever I've heard from you, the Vedanta, I don't find any fault in that. But I do find fault in your explanations that you're giving, because they're like a cloud on the sun of the Vedanta. So when he hears this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, being so learned and thinking high of himself, he felt a bit slighted, he felt insulted. That, he says, what do you find, what fault do you find in my explanations? So in this way, the conversation goes on. Then Mahaprabhu recites this, and then Mahaprabhu gives explanation to what he had said. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya gives 9 different explanations. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives 18 different explanations for the same verse without repeating anything that he had himself said or Sarvabhauma had said. Now, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a very intelligent personality, so he realized that only the Supreme Lord can give such explanations of the Vedanta. Nobody else, no living entity material on this material planet could actually do that. So he falls at the feet of the Supreme Lord and he begs forgiveness. And he then also becomes his devout follower. And then he actually writes 100 verses in glorification of the Supreme Lord. So when he writes these verses in glorification of Supreme Lord, then all the devotees, Lord Nityananda and Jagannatha Pandit and others who were present, they were greatly amazed and they were very pleased that now Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has become a devotee and he's given up the impersonalist Mayavad philosophy. And then not only him, it is actually said that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is the expansion of Brihaspati, and he actually becomes an instrument of how thousands of his followers, Mayavadis of that time, also then become followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on seeing that their leader, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, has become a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then this verse that Lord Brahma recites, Tathaenukampam shushmikshamano bhunjan evatma kritam vipakam. So bhakti, so there is a word mukti pade, means one who is Tathaenukampam shushmikshamano bhunjan evatma kritam vipakam hridvag vapur bhir vidadhan namaste jive toyo mukti pade sadaya bhag. So when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sees this word mukti pade here, he narrates this verse when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is around, and he changes this mukti pade to bhakti pade. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks him, why have you changed it? So he says that mukti pade it reminds me of the mukti of liberation, of merging into the impersonal Brahman of the Lord. And he says even the demons that Lord had killed, they got this mukti. So it is like a punishment. So I don't like this word here. I want this, it's bhakti sounds more enlivening to the heart. And mukti only instills fear and anger in my heart when I see. So in one sense, Prabhupada actually says there that Mahaprabhu was pleased at his transformation and that how much he was attracted to bhakti and found it enlivening. But at the same time, we should not change or tamper with the words of the scriptures. And then he explains, he says, mukti pade here actually means that one who is actually, that mukti is residing, liberation resides at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. That is what mukti pade means, and that is what Srila Prabhupada explains here in the purport. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed him that there is no need to correct any word in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. He explains that mukti pade refers to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, who offers mukti and is therefore called Mukunda. A pure devotee is not concerned with material things. He is not concerned with religiosity, economic development, or sense gratification. He is interested only in serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So in this way, the transformation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya brought about a great change at that time, in that age. And the devotees, as Srila Prabhupada mentioned here, they do not engage in the other four goals of life. They engage in the Pancham Purushartha, the ultimate goal of life, which is in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So I will end here and ask if there are any comments, questions, corrections.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for a nice class. It was Gopinath Acharya who pointed out that it is, Lord is Supreme Personality of Godhead, Gopinath Acharya. He told to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, although a lot of people were trying to argue. Mm-hmm. My question is, why so much importance given to the lotus feet of, what is there in lotus feet that everybody wants to serve lotus feet? Your realization.
Prabhuji, you have, I'm sure you have answer to your own question. Why do you feel so attracted towards the lotus feet of the Lord? Why, when we take darshan of the Lord, the first thing that we look at is lotus feet?
There must be some nectar in the lotus feet, that's why everybody wants to taste that nectar. Is that what you want to say?
No, I'm asking you because you know the answer to your own question.
I thought you can give better because we have read so much. You can tell a lot of things. Thank you.
Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the nice class. Mataji, you mentioned how these munis, they are self-realized, but they still have material desires, so they achieve liberation instead of love for Godhead. But we see, at least for myself, as devotees, we sometimes come to the Lord for our material desires, like for fame and recognition. So where will our destination be?
Akama sarva kamava moksha kamudharidi. So whether you have millions of desires, or whether you have no desires, or whether you desire liberation, we just take shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Not the lotus head of the Supreme Lord, but at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So, yes, even if we have desires, it is mentioned in the scriptures that we still take shelter of the Supreme Lord, and He will purify our desires. It is said that the way the Lord grants the desires of His pure devotees is that then we never desire that thing again, and He also gives us the shelter of His lotus feet. The desire that is the material desire in the heart also becomes purified, and we also get the shelter of the lotus feet because we go to Him to fulfill our desires.
Thank you.
Thank you. Length class here. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, that I God